Now we're going to explore rhombuses, rectangles, and squares just a little bit. Mainly learning the definition, what is a rhombus, what is a square, what is a rectangle, and also some of the properties that they have. So, first of all, if you have a quadrilateral and all the sides are congruent, then you got yourself a rhombus. And that's what we have here first, a rhombus. Now, if all of the angles are 90 degrees, if you have a quadrilateral and all the angles are 90 degrees, then you have yourself a rectangle. Now, if you have a quadrilateral and all the sides are congruent and all the angles are right angles, those two situations, then you have yourself a square. So these are the three quadrilaterals that we'll look at. Now notice, a square is a rhombus, and it's also a rectangle. Okay, now, so just to keep those straight, so that's just definitions. Now, if you look down here, here we have, in the diagram at the right, we have this rhombus. And what is the value of y? So this is a typical way you would be asked, well, do you know what a rhombus is? Well, a rhombus is all the sides are the same length. So we have 2y plus 3 equals 5y minus 6. And I could bring the 2y over and get 3y equals 9 and y equals 3. So we could solve the equation that way and get the value for y. Okay, now just some interesting things that we want to keep in mind. First of all, this first part just goes with defining the three things: rhombus, rectangle, and square. A quadrilateral is a rhombus if and only if all four sides are congruent. Now, a quadrilateral is a rectangle if and only if all four angles are right angles. And then a quadrilateral is a square if and only if it is a rhombus and a rectangle. So a square is both a rhombus and a rectangle. Okay, now, some properties that we want to look at for a rhombus. A parallelogram is a rhombus if and only if its diagonals are perpendicular. Okay, so that means when they intersect in here, you're going to get right angles. Okay, so a parallelogram, so this is the thing about a rhombus. It intersects at right angles. Okay, now a parallelogram is a rhombus if and only if each diagonal bisects a pair of opposite angles. Okay, so look at this. Now, notice this diagonal cuts that angle in half. It cuts this angle C in half, and it cuts angle A in half. Okay? It does the same thing. So these diagonals do that. They bisect the angles. Now, let's look at the last one. A parallelogram is a rectangle if and only if its diagonals are congruent. So that's an interesting thing that we want to be aware of, that its diagonals are actually the same lengths. Okay, so that's just mainly, this is just so that you'll know the differences. You know, what is a rectangle? What is a rhombus? What is a square? So think of somehow to lock that in your mind. And remember, you can start with the square, realizing, okay, a square is a rectangle and a rhombus. Okay. A rectangle, it's a rectangle because it has four right angles, and it's a rhombus because all four sides are congruent.